What we have here is a failure to communicate. Most of us are familiar with the phrase from 1967's Cool Hand Luke. Its iconic phrase found its way into the fabric of our nation, and people will quote it without even knowing who said it or why. It was delivered to prisoners by a sadistic warden after punishing Luke for another attempt to escape. Luke was never going to submit or give in. The warden went on to say, "Some men you just can't reach. So you get what we had here last week, which is the way he wants it. Well, he gets it, and I don't like it any more than you men." Paul Newman, as Cool Hand Luke, portrayed a man who would defy all authority to the very end, even at the cost of his life. He was a proud rebel, just like the subject of today's morning minutes in the Bible. Lamech, the proud rebel. In Genesis chapter 4, verses 18 through 24, we find the brief record of a man who proudly refused to submit to God. Growing up east of Eden as a descendant of Cain, Lamech had zero interest in living according to God's laws. He was proudly rebelling against God. His disinterest showed up first in his defiance of God's marriage law in the first record of polygamy. Lamech took to himself 2 wives, Genesis 4:19. Instead of God's way of 1 man and 1 woman, his way was 1 man and 2 women. In America's headlong rush to throw off God's laws, how long before America accepts that as marriage? Well, in some places it already has. Next, in Genesis chapter 4, verses 20 through 22, we're shown his defiance in the lives of his sons and the name of his daughter. The implication of the sons' occupations wasn't to imply anything necessarily wrong with what they were doing, but that the boys were determined to live their own lives, do their own things, and God was completely and totally irrelevant to them. And Naamah, the daughter's name, meant beauty or favor, as if she was a thing instead of a person. It's the first record of the objectification of women, a sin that continues to this day. Finally, it shows up in his pride-filled boast of getting away with murder and daring anyone to do something about it in Genesis 4, verses 23 through 24. Now, here's the big question. Do you see yourself in any of those? Well, don't be a proud rebel. Instead, come back tomorrow to see a different path. Until then, this is James McClenny, hoping you have a great day.